So in section 12.5, we are going to be talking about how to graph circles on a coordinate grid. So we're going to talk about what the equation of a circle looks like and how to go from an equation to a graph and how to go the other direction. If you have a graph, how to write the equation. So in order to relate the equation to a graph, you need to know two things about the circle. You need to know where its center is and what the radius of the circle is. So we're going to start with circles that have a center at 0, 0. So the origin, that's the point 0, 0. And we're going to call the radius r. Now you guys are used to equations that look like y equals mx plus b. That's a line. Or y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That's a parabola. The equation of a circle looks a little bit different because it doesn't start y equals. The x and the y are going to be on the same side. If the center of the circle is at 0, 0, the equation looks like x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So whatever the number over here is, that number is the radius squared. So to find the radius, take the square root. So for example, if you have x squared plus y squared equals 36, that's telling you that the radius squared equals 36. So you take square root and you get that the radius is 6. Now so far we're only talking about circles with a center at 0, 0. So the center of this circle is going to be at 0, 0. We'll talk in a minute about what to do and what the equation looks like if the center is somewhere else. So center is at 0, 0. So the easiest way to graph a circle is put a dot where the center is. And then if the radius is 6, just count up 6 and put a dot. Go back to the center and count down 6 and put a dot. Go back to the center, count right 6 and put a dot. Go back to the center and count left 6 and put a dot. And I will tell you, I am not very good at drawing circles. My circles usually end up looking more like either squashed eggs or kind of diamond-y shapes. Try to make them look at least a little bit rounded. Whatever you can do to kind of make them look somewhat round. So we know that we're not dealing with a square or something. They are supposed to be round. That one started off okay and kind of went downhill, but it looks something like that. Try to at least make it so I can tell you we're trying to make it round. All right, let's look at another one. So again, this number is the radius squared. So if we take a square root, we get that r is the square root of 13. Well, that's great, but how am I supposed to graph the square root of 13? I don't exactly have tick marks that are the square root of 13 apart. I kind of need a decimal for that. So I'm going to get a decimal for square root of 13. That's about 3.6. And I'm just going to guesstimate. It's not going to be perfect. My circles aren't very good anyway, so it's okay. Again, since it just says x squared plus y squared, my center will be 0, 0. It's the x squared plus y squared part that will be different when the center is somewhere else. Okay, so 0, 0. I'm going to go right 3 and a little bit more than half. I'm going to go up 3 and a little bit more than half. I'm going to go left 3 and a little bit more than half. I'm going to go down 3 and a little bit more than half. Just do my best to kind of make it look rounded. I always start out so well and then it just, I can't finish the circle and make it look good, but that was okay. All right, so now we're going to go the other direction. So we know the center's 0, 0, so that means I've got the x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So r is 11, and this number needs to be 11 squared. So 11 squared, 11 times 11 is 121. And there we go. That would be what the equation would look like if the center was at 0, 0 and the radius was 11. But the thing is that not every circle is going to be well behaved and go, gosh, I think I'm going to make life easy for everyone and have the center be at 0, 0. Most circles are going to have their center be somewhere else. So the equation becomes a little bit different, but it's not that complicated. It may look a little intimidating at first, but it's not hard. So hang with me, don't panic. So the equation looks like this. We're going to call the center HK. So H is the X of the center, K is the Y of the center. And the equation is going to look like this. X minus H in parentheses squared plus Y minus K in parentheses squared equals R squared. Remember that anytime you see a minus in an equation like this, think opposite. So this means X opposite of H plus Y opposite of K equals R squared. So H and K are the opposites of the numbers with X and Y in parentheses. So for example, if you saw X minus 3 squared plus Y plus 5 squared, H would be 3 positive, K would be negative 5. Negative. Opposite of negative is positive. Opposite of positive is negative. The center would be 3, negative 5. And let's say that equaled 100. R squared equals 100. So R equals 10. So this number over here is still the radius squared. And H and K are just the opposite of whatever is with X and Y in parentheses. Now, if there isn't a number with X or Y, then H or K is 0. If it just says X squared or just says y squared, then h or k is 0. So let's look at an example. So I've got x minus 2. That means h is positive 2. Y minus 1. That means k is positive 1. That's my center right there. Positive 2, positive 1. And that 9 is r squared. So take a square root. The radius is 3. So the only difference graphing this is that the center isn't at 0, 0. I have to find the center. So the center is at 2, 1. So right 2, up 1. There's the center. And I go up 3, down 3, right 3, left 3 from there. So right 3, left 3, up 3, down 3. Try to make it somewhat circular. Yeah, lovely. All right, here's another one. X plus 3. Opposite of 3 is negative 3. Y minus 5. Opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. That's your center. Negative 3, positive 5. Opposite, opposite. R squared is 1. Take a square root. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. So radius is 1. So left 3, up 5. Go 1 in each direction. I have a much easier time drawing them when they're small. Okay, I'm not even going to write out all the work this time. Opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. Opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. Radius squared is 20. Square root. Well, I'm not sure whether the assignment asks you for a simplified root or not, but let's go ahead and do that anyway. Square root of 20. 20 is 4 times 5. 4 is 2 times 2. So there's a pair. So we get 2 square roots of 5. But we will need a decimal, whether we have it not simplified or not. We need a decimal. And even if we had done it without simplifying, we would have gotten the same decimal, about 4.5. So negative 4, negative 1. Okay, and I didn't give you a big enough graph here, so we're just going to have to guess about where things would be. 4.5, 4.5, 1, 2, 3, 4.5-ish. Just make your best approximation there. So good until the end. That was a good circle. Okay, I'm feeling good about that one. All right, now if you just see an x by itself, that would be the same as x minus 0 squared, because x minus 0 is x. So if you see something where there's no parentheses, that means the h or k is 0. So no parentheses, h or k equals 0. So here, h is 0, k is 2. And we have r squared equals 36. Take a square root. That tells you that r is 6. So the center is at 0, positive 2, and the radius is 6. So don't go right and left, go up 2, right 6, left 6, down 6. Of course, there's not room, so we'll just do our best approximation. Oh yeah, my circle drawing skills are fabulous. All right. Now writing the equation, so remember it's going to be x opposite of h in parentheses squared, y opposite of k in parentheses squared. And there's a plus sign between the two sets of parentheses. Equals radius squared. So just think of these as meaning opposite of the center. Opposite of the center. So if the center is 2, 5, I would have x opposite of plus is minus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 7 squared. And I just have to square that. 7 squared is 49. So that's your answer. Okay, if you already have a square root here, just remember that when you square a square root, they cancel out. So the square root of 13 squared is 13. So here I would have x minus 3 squared plus y opposite of -1 is plus 1 squared. That y looks weird to me, sorry. Equals square root of 13 squared. And square root of 13 squared is 13. So x minus 3 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 13. All right, we've got x opposite of -2 is plus 2 squared plus y opposite of 12 is minus 12 squared equals 15 squared. 15 squared is 225. Okay, now anytime you see a 0, it's just going to be x squared or y squared with no parentheses. So on D here, you're just going to have y squared. On F, you're just going to have x squared. Because y minus 0 is just y. So this is a little tricky here. We have x Opposite of negative 5 is plus 5 squared plus y squared equals r squared. Now put that in parentheses. Now when you're squaring this, you're not only squaring the square root of 3, you're also squaring the 2. 2 squared is 4. Square root of 3 squared is 3. And 4 times 3 is 12. So it's not 2 times 3, it's 4 times 3. So you get 12 there. So be really careful. If you do type it in the calculator, you absolutely need to make sure that you put the parentheses around it, or you'll get the wrong answer. It would need to be typed like this. If you leave the parentheses off, you'll get the wrong answer. 12 is correct, 6 is wrong. Put parentheses on. Okay, negative, negative, so we have x, opposite of negative 6 is plus 6 squared, plus y, opposite of negative 9 is plus 9 squared, equals 1 squared. So that's x plus 6 squared plus y plus 9 squared equals 1 squared is 1. All right, so on F, we have a 0, and x minus 0 is just x. So we have x squared plus y, opposite of 4 is minus 4 squared equals r squared. Parentheses. 1/2 squared means 1/2 times 1/2. That's 1/4. So it's x squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 1/4. These last few problems are exactly the same as the ones we've been doing, except you have to look at the graph and figure out what the center and the radius are from the graph. And sometimes that's really easy, sometimes it can be a little hard depending on how big the circle is. So what I've found is that the easiest way to do that is start at the very top of the circle and draw a line from the very top to the very bottom, and then draw a line from the very left to the very right. And where your two lines cross, that's the center right there. So you can go ahead and you can find where that center is. So that dot is at -2, +4. Sorry if you're hearing all that clattering. My cat is falling off of his little cat tower. He's very talented that way. All right, so -2, +4 is the center, right? Left 2, up 4. And then the radius is just, well, how far from the center to the top, or from the center to the side? 1, 2. So now you have exactly the type of information I was giving you in one of those problems. So we have x, opposite of -2 is +2 squared, plus y, opposite of 4 is -4 squared, equals r squared, 2 squared. So x plus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 2 squared is 4. Okay, so here's another one. So go from top to bottom and left to right, and where those cross is the center. So that is at 1, 2, 3, up 1. So the center is at 3, 1. And the radius, 1, 2, 3. So we have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 3 squared. So x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 9. So all you have to do is look at the graph to find the center and radius. It's just one extra step.